want to say thank you to the three of you, as well as our remote esports athlete here that were joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to our students. I also want to thank Affinity Esports for facilitating this for us. With a special thanks to Mark, Subhuman, Kilpatrick, for making this happen on really short notice. It was over the holiday weekend. We were like messaging on Discord and all hours of the holiday weekend. Everyone was super responsive, so I appreciate it from you guys here as well. We'll do introductions and stuff in a minute. I just want to go over a little bit of the history of esports here in Milford, and then we'll just take it from there. So here in Milford, we're finishing up our first year, our first esports experience. We have an esports club at Law and Foreign. Mr. Dubuque is the esports advisor at Foreign. Ms. First here is the esports advisor here at Law, and they've been doing a great job at getting us up and running. The club's been meeting twice a week, and we've been having Law versus Foreign scrimmages live streamed every Tuesday. So it's been a lot of fun. Next year, we'll have official teams and compete against other districts in the Play Versus program. So we're really excited to continue our esports journey. In our esports program, we want to not only increase the player skill level, but also technological and academic literacy. So we asked to have this experience here today to share your experiences and your knowledge about esports in the college and university level, and the opportunities that are available to students within esports, such as scholarships and careers. So again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to kind of get out of the camera here now. And yeah, let's get started. And I would just say maybe I think that mic should be good there like it is. So we'll just kind of leave the mic there. And we'll just kind of get started maybe with some introductions. So please introduce yourselves, your university or college, and what game or games you play for your university and college. So let's start here in person.
Alrighty. My name is Veronica Vero Tardif, and I'm a student at Post University and an esports athlete at Post University. I play Overwatch 2, and I've been playing for the past 3 seasons, which fun as can be. And I'm also the president of our gaming association. So, fun.
Well, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelvin, multi-Kel Miskiti. Okay, yeah, that's hard to say out loud. I am a junior at Post University, and I primarily am the captain of the Overwatch 2 team at Post and a player for the Valorant team at Post as well. And yeah, very cool, very fun.
Hi, my name is Connor CNRL Linkavics, and I am a recent graduate from the University of New Haven. I was the captain of the Halo team, and I also played for the varsity Counter-Strike and the varsity Valorant team.
Cool. A remote person?
Hello, my name is Nolan Mojo Pico. I'm a student at Post University. I am the captain of the Valorant team. I'm going on to my third full school year. I'm currently a junior, and I'm the captain of Val team, and I don't really play anything else, just Val.
Nice. Very cool. So yeah, I mean, obviously part of the reason we want to have you come here is really just to we have some questions and just sharing your experience and your knowledge with us would be great. If there's a question you want to pass on or something, that's fine. Just have someone else answer it. I guess we'll just kind of go down the line here with each of these questions since everyone's here. So let's start with, how did you get started with esports?
So at first, I saw a poster for he saw a poster for the Overwatch 2 team tryouts. And I was like, I only have like 10, 15 hours in the game. I'm probably not going to make it on the team. But he forced me into it. So thank you. We tried out. It was a ton of fun. We were doing 10-mans, 5v5 with the previous Overwatch 2 team. And it was so much fun. And hey, I made it on the team. And now here I am, 3 seasons in, and still continuing Overwatch 2, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Kind of jumping off of that, my side of the story. So yeah, I saw the poster. Well, actually, no, she tried to reach out and then kind of didn't follow through with it. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Now that I'm enrolled at Post, I enrolled in the winter semester, and I'm like, all right, you know what? We'll try it out. We're probably not going to make it, but you know what? All the shots you don't take always miss, so why not? And I ended up becoming the captain of my first semester at Post University because I had the most, I guess, shot calling or experience at the time, and I'm now still continuing that captain-esque through the next 3 semesters like she has. So bring a friend with you. It's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, so mine's a little bit of a longer story, but I've always been gaming. Since I was 5 years old, I started playing Halo 3, and I kept playing and playing. I wasn't really a sports kid. And then when I turned 13, my dad was like, hey, they're having a tournament at the West Farms Mall for Halo 5. He took me, and out of 80 people, I got 4th place. So then I kept playing, kept competing, doing local tournaments, and then Shenandoah and University of New Haven both reached out to me, and they're like, we want you to play for our school. And then throughout that process, I ended up picking the University of New Haven, played Valorant and Counter-Strike for 2 semesters. And then once Halo Infinite started coming out, I went to my program director, and I was like, hey, like, give me the resources, and I will make one of the best Halo teams in the college scene. And then it's kind of history from there.
Wow, awesome. How about our remote person?
So I started off really differently than a lot of esports players. I got recruited to post to play baseball. I was a pitcher. And I got a laptop when I was a senior in high school, and I started playing Valorant like not competitively. And then once I got to post, I saw that they had a Valorant team. I was like bronze 1 at the time. I tried out, and then 2 seasons later, I became the captain. So
Super cool.
long story for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so obviously being on esports teams at the college level, there's a degree of like you have to get your skills up, right? So I'm just wondering, how did you increase your skills and ability?
Increasing skills and abilities is a very up and down kind of process. You're obviously going to have fun because it's a game that you love. I love Overwatch to an extent. And there's some times where it does get annoying and you do get angry, but you're not going to improve if you're just stagnant at that point, just angry at everything, angry at yourself, everybody else. So keeping a healthy mindset is a fantastic thing, especially when playing video games, esports, even traditional sports. But our coaches do a fantastic job at recognizing when we're becoming that way and telling us, hey, step away, take a second, you're not doing well right now, you're not going to improve. And also we have skill trees that we go through. Do you want to touch a little bit on skill trees?
Yeah, sure. So our coach Denny made like a skill tree for every single one of our varsity titles, which are different for every title because for every title you have to learn something a bit different. Like let's say Smash Bros, for example, you have to learn more about platform fighting. So you're not going to use those skills as you would in an FPS, especially like a hero shooter like Overwatch is. With my like perspective on learning, it's a bit different because I'm like the in-game leader of our like title. So my coach kind of taught me more about like, hey, so this is how you play a video game with other people. Because I feel like we can all say in this room, like, if we played a team game before, solo queuing is a much different experience than it is of actually having like a team that like you form together and are able to communicate in together. It's very different. You have to make very different calls. You have to make very different like, strategies in your head about how these teams synergize together, and that's what I had to learn. And it's a lot of fun to like, my coach Frosty in the Overwatch 2 team, he made a very big point to have fun while I'm doing this, because like Veronica said, I'm not going to improve if I'm tilted the whole time,
I was going to say that. You got to be careful getting on tilt. You just got to get out of it, just stop it, and then take a break and go back.
Mm-hmm. And adaptability.
Go ahead.
Adaptability is also a very important thing when trying to improve in video games. And just learning how to play with other people and other people's play styles is also important to self-improve, because you just recognize those patterns and you could recognize them within yourself.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah, so kind of my thing with improving was when I played on Counter-Strike, I played with an ex-pro, so I kind of learned a lot from him, but it's mainly just like accountability and like surrounding yourself in a good environment. At least with Halo, we pushed each other as much as we could because we all wanted to improve, and at the end of the day, we knew that. So we would have some constructive criticism, and like we would take that and then improve because we all knew that there was something we could do better. And it's also all individual too. Like if you go back and watch your old VODs, that's going to be the best way to improve, because if you go into a team knowing that you can improve, it's going to be better. And just having a trusting team, like with outside stuff too, like going to go get dinner as a team, like that team chemistry part was also something I had a huge focus on, because if you don't trust people outside of the game, you're not going to trust them inside of the game.
That's a good point. Interesting. A remote person.
So I'm gonna add off of CM there. I feel like the biggest part of self-improvement is to understand and take accountability for your own actions. For me personally, when I was trying to improve a lot personally, I had to understand that it's not always other people's faults, and that I had to understand what I'm doing wrong and how I had to improve off of that. And like you said, watching VODs and stuff like that is definitely a big part of that.
That's awesome. So I believe one of you, who was it that applied and has the scholarship for esports?
I did.
Is there anything, I mean, how did you find out about that scholarship and how did you apply for it?
So the first time I found out about a scholarship was when Shannon Doe reached out to me. They had an original offer, and then I went to the University of New Haven with it, and I was like, hey, like, I really like your program. What can we do from this? And then we kind of worked it into it. And I was kind of one of the first people to, and now that I know that the semester, this upcoming semester in New Haven, starting to focus more on that. But for me, it was just kind of finding the connections and like putting names to faces, because at the end of the day, like if you're not talking to people and like having that sit down like Zoom conversation with somebody, like they're not going to know who you are. So that's kind of my main thing that I went with it, is making that connection, because then it would make it easier down the line.
Sure. I mean, is there anything else you could tell our students here that are maybe interested in an esports scholarship? Any other information that you think might be helpful for them?
I think just kind of take everything you have. Like if you have highlight reels, get that together, like put it on YouTube, kind of get all the things that you can, and then kind of like advertise yourself in a way. I didn't really think of that much. But then also reach out to people at the school. Like if you have like the Discord of the school, you could be like, hey, like I'm interested. Get those student connections, because then you'll be able to kind of move up in a sense, compared to if you had a conversation with somebody and then you're talking to the higher ups compared to someone who is just talking to the higher ups. You're gonna have that bigger connection. So really try to get that community connection. Like that's the key in my opinion.
Yeah, and right now the scholarships are huge for esports. There's over 270 scholarships available right now. So it's a booming thing. It's getting to the point where it's like trying out for the football team or something, or getting a scholarship for football and basketball. So it's getting to that level. So there's a ton of resources out there for that.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
And I was just talking to you guys about this. How long have the programs that you've played for been around? Just to give context to this.
Only 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
And New Haven's been 4.
So, I mean, we're talking about programs that have just started and are looking for people to really go out there and actually compete for them. And these guys are the trailblazers for what's actually going out there.
And don't be afraid to also, once you have conversations with one school, kind of use that in a sense when talking to other schools, because at the end of the day, if a school really wants you and likes what they see, if you kind of are like, hey, this school wants me for this much, you can kind of negotiate a little bit more. And especially with esports, like I know that there's remote scholarships, I know that there's in-person. So the good thing about esports is that there are so many different options and routes that you can go through. Even if you're not not super competitive in like the content side, I know that there's schools that also have a focus on that. So like kind of do your research and kind of look all over. Especially with esports, it's going to be a lot easier to do tours and get information, because you could just reach out and play games with them as well.
Sure. Just one more question about the scholarships. I think this is something that everyone is probably interested in, right? Like, why wouldn't we be? Did you have to do a tryout for the team, or like how did you get accepted to the team?
So originally I got into the program, and then we had tryouts for the team. And then at the time Halo was not really around, so I tried out for Valorant, and I was playing with my coach every day during the summer, trying to get better, because it was something I didn't really know. Mm-hmm. So we kind of did tryouts right before the school ended, and then from there. But we kind of knew when I got accepted that I was going to be on a varsity team, mm-hmm. just we didn't know which one yet.
Interesting, very interesting and cool. Does anyone else here have anything to add about this scholarship piece?
No.
I will say, I don't know how close it is, like esports is, so like regular traditional sports, because when I was trying to find a school for baseball, it's a small world. Like going back to he said, you could kind of use other schools to your advantage, right? For example, like say if it's Post versus New Haven, right? Obviously Post isn't big in the scholarships right now for esports, but you can kind of use like, oh, hey, New Haven wants me for X amount of money. Is there any way I want to go to this school? I want to go to your school more, but you guys have to kind of work with me for it. So it's just, you gotta have to show that there is a threat of another school to different schools.
Sure. And like you said, just to kind of recap too, it's like kind of putting yourself out there, putting out the highlight reels, kind of like building a portfolio in a way of your gaming career, right? And like what you've done, your ranks, et cetera, things like that. Just real quick, I mean, before I get to the next question, did everyone here have to like try out for the team that you're on?
Yes.
Yeah. What was that tryout like?
Like I said with the Overwatch 2 team, it was 5v5 with the previous Overwatch 2 team and then the newer people who were trying out. And they were kind of testing our skill to see if we would be a good fit and if we had good synergy with each other right off the bat. Like at that point, the only person I knew on the team was, or trying out was Kel. And right off the bat, we had fantastic synergy with total strangers who we didn't even know, which was a really cool thing to see. We all love video games, so we all have that in common, but I don't know your real name. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I won't lie though, we got rolled quite a bit.
We did get rolled.
Yeah, but I mean, we had fun getting rolled.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like during that tryout, and I had to run a few tryouts myself, so I know this. It's like you kind of have to know who has a positive mental on the team and who can recover from that, and you consistently be okay. It's kind of like a hard skill to be okay with losing, but how are you able to bounce back from that is also what they're looking for as well. Because we were anticipated to lose a lot. We didn't, but we were. But we ended up coming back from the losses that we had, and we ended up becoming really better from it,
And the thing with our school is that we don't pull from pros. We don't have any pro players on any of our teams. We're here to learn and improve ourselves. We don't lose. We either win or we learn. So
It's really good. Really good.
Yeah, and with New Haven, kind of the trial process, being a player first, it was kind of just getting reps in, doing 10-mans in Valorant, kind of just getting those reps in. And then when I was a captain of Halo and I was running the tryouts, the biggest thing I looked for was the communication factor, because at the end of the day, I can teach you how to get more game sense in Halo and kind of teach you what you need to know. But there's the small habits of the communication where I really can't teach that. So that was something I was looking for, because I think that communication is one of the biggest things in esports. So that was the main thing I looked for. And that's the biggest piece of advice I will give, is to work on communication. It is a lot easier to join a team when having those strong communication skills compared to having the raw aim and the raw skill, but then not really having those communication skills.
Sure. So before, I've got a couple more questions. Before I do that, I want to kind of give you guys a chance. Is there anything that you would like to ask our esports players here? Yep.
You guys both played Overwatch?
yes.
Yes.
What's your opinion on DPS Mercy?
Okay, as a Mercy main, I understand it sometimes, depends. But for the most part, don't pull the Barbie blaster out.
But if the widow needs to be taken care of.
Yeah, if the widow needs to be taken care of. If she was uncontested that whole game, going to Valk, just go for it.
Yeah. That Barbie blaster hurts, man. It does.
Awesome. Maybe I'll. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Do you guys do Siege at all, or?
Our school doesn't do Siege. A few of our players are trying to make up a club team for it, but since we are partnered with Affinity Esports, which is a whole bunch of kids, they cater more towards kids, we really don't want to advertise that varsity play in those kind of war simulators. I know Valorant's technically a war simulator, but we don't want to advertise to parents oh, we have these super violent kind of games. But we are trying to make a club team for Siege. So
I'll say if you're trying to search for a school that has Siege, it's quite difficult because a lot of people will tell you the same thing. It's hard. I'll say from like my own perspective, it's hard to advertise that type of stuff, but you can definitely find it. It's definitely not impossible.
And I mean, we have a ton of people that come into our esports lab that play Siege, so it's definitely not so well known thing. Like a lot of people still like play it.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I know New Haven's replacing Halo with it because all 4 of the Halo players, we all graduated, so then Halo's done, so then I know that they're trying to bring in Rainbow Six, so I can kind of get you in contact with all that stuff.
There you go.
Cool.
Nice. Maybe I'll go back to the questions I had, and we'll take a few more from the students after. I mean, just tell us, what's it like competing on a collegiate esports team?
It's frustrating sometimes because you will see things that your other teammates are doing that they could improve on, and you might not recognize the things that you need to improve on without somebody else telling you. But like everyone basically has said, communication is the most important thing within a team. I sucked at communication before I started playing on the esports teams, and I still suck at communication, but I do find myself improving. But playing on an esports team, super fun. You meet a lot of people that you may have not like even thought about meeting before. Our whole Overwatch 2 team, we're all friends. Like outside of Overwatch, we hang out outside of Overwatch. And just having that group, that community to fall back on and still play video games with is such a nice thing to have.
Oh, yes. Like I said earlier, like having friends to play with is much easier than trusting like 4 other randos or like, a ton of people you just never met online. But no, like she said, you get to meet new people, you get to really connect with them, and it's very similar to like I actually had a conversation with like people who are in traditional sports, and it's very similar to like the fact of you're meeting people, you're connecting with these people, and you're competing with them on a very like national or regional level. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely, if you like the competitive, not even if you just like the competitive aspect, if you just like playing, just go for it. Just like in any other club.
Sure.
Yeah, I think being a varsity athlete at New Haven has been one of the best experiences I've ever done. We got our school covered for us to travel. We went to the University of Kentucky for a LAN, and then we also went in March, we went to the University of Southern Mississippi for a LAN. So it's kind of doing a whole bunch of things I never thought I would be able to do while having my 3 other best friends on a roster, and you get to do people were doubting rosters and you get to prove them wrong. That part's always fun. And it's also, you make connections with people not just in your school. Like one of my really good friends is from Utah State, and I met him for my first time in person at that LAN. And it's like, it's one of my closest friendships in the world, and I met him through esports. So it's something where it's, yes, the competing side is fun, but really the connections you make and everything outside of it is, in my opinion, the best part about esports, because I know I'm going to talk to a lot of these people for a long time, and I've retired competing now. So it's like, it's setting you up, and it's also like you never know down the line also when you're getting jobs and stuff who you may know, and like more recommendations also can come from there. So
Sure.
So for me personally, I agree with all of them about the camaraderie, right? I actually won a conflict. I won the first conference championship for posts playing Val in the spring of 2023. And I still talk to every single one of those guys. I'm the only remaining player left on the roster from the championship team, but I still talk to every single one of them on a daily basis. It's just about, just like all of them said, that it's all about the connections you can make through it. Hopefully, I have one of my teammates from that team that lives up in Massachusetts, and when I come back up for school, I'm hopefully going to go see him. It's little stuff like that, because like when you do something really memorable with those people, you're going to remember it for a lifetime, obviously. But I think it's like competing is the fun part about college esports, because you're playing for your school, you're playing for a logo, you're not really playing for yourself, right? You can still obviously win, personal achievements, like rookie of seasons, player of the season, player of the year kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, you're still trying to play for the school that you're going to.
Sure, it's like school pride and stuff, right? Just like winning a big football game or something, you get that like Val championship or something. Very cool.
And it's even just the match wins itself. Sometimes they're so much fun. Like we went to LAN and we were playing the hometown team, the hometown school, and we lost map 1, and they're all screaming at us. And it's like, then we won the series, and it's like moments like that, like you really can't make up. And then in that same tournament, in winners finals, we were down 0-2, and then we reverse swept. So it's like there are so many moments that like you will just remember for the rest of your life because of esports.
Awesome. Is there any advice that you would give like aspiring esports athletes like we have in the room?
Play. Yeah.
Just keep playing.
Yeah.
But recognizing when you are getting tilted, like I said a few times before, recognizing that and learning to step away and take your own mental into account with playing is definitely a very important thing, because I know all of you probably have gotten to that point where you're like, I hate this game, I never want to play it again, like with League. But just learning how to step away, learning how to step away is the most important thing. And even if you're winning all your games, like you're on a 5-game win streak, learning to take a break is also a really important thing. Because I stand up and walk around after every game, like even when I'm in queue, just to like try to get more blood into my system. Because sitting down for like 5 hours straight is not a good thing. There's a lot of health problems that come with that, but.
But yeah, no, I say play, but I'm being serious when I'm like, yeah, start now, because the younger you are, the much easier it is for you to, if you genuinely want to go pro, it's much easier if you're younger. The average age for worldwide for esports athletes to retire is 25. There's not a lot of time left. So if you want to get started, start now, start playing your game, start getting ready. And collegiate-wise, you can even compete with pros at that level if you are high enough. It's a very early market that, like, career-wise, you got to start taking steps early.
Yeah, I think my 2 biggest things is, number 1, if you're on a roster of 4 people, put no, or 5, put in your work, but know that, like, with Halo, I'd always tell, put your 25% in, because at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to want to put too much or not enough. If you're on a team, be aware of that 25%, because once everyone puts that in, it goes really well. It kind of becomes an issue when someone's trying to do everything or someone's not doing enough. Just kind of find that balance, and then also just take care of yourself. It is something where, like, I've used gaming as an escape from the real world, but it's like, take care of yourself and do well in school, because also the more you do well in school, the better scholarships you will probably get access to.
You guys can hear me now?
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I would just say keep playing, like my 2 fellow post players said. If you just put hours in, you're going to eventually get better, right? Just from experience. Okay. I think it's also important to understand, like I said before, understand and take responsibility for your own actions. That's the biggest thing I tell the kids at Affinity that I coach. Because if you don't understand your personal growth and personal decline, then you're never going to improve as an individual. That's all I really have, honestly. I think everyone else really just hit on the head of the nail. So yeah.
Sure, so I've got a few more questions, but again, I want to open it up to the students here, just because I don't want to talk the whole time. Are there any other questions you'd like to ask our athletes here?
How often do you see people try to compete with the controller?
A lot, actually.
A lot.
Actually, in an Overwatch 2 team, I had to make a very big decision to split our teams into 2, one being a PC-only team and one being a cross-platform team, because 2 of the conferences we compete in, one of them is PC-only and one of them is a cross-platform one. And yeah, there is arguments to be made that controller is harder. You're kind of on like, it's much harder to react than PC and mouse, but there are players who want to compete on controller, and they're just really good at it. So one of the best Torbjorn mains I know, who has like been able to get the highest kills in the lobby, is a controller player, and she is absolutely amazing at like the game. And I would have never discovered that if I just said, oh no controllers at all. So very fun.
It's kind of like almost like even with fighting games, right? There's some people that
Yeah.
want to play on pads, some who play on arcade sticks, leverless, all that stuff.
It's all about personal preference.
Yeah.
That's it. Anything else before I go back into the questions I have? Yeah.
Is there any fighting games you guys play besides, I think, Smash? I don't know if that's in there.
We don't have any other fighting games varsity like wise, but he is in love with Street Fighter 6.
Okay, me personally, I really want to start a Street Fighter 6 team, but the interest isn't there yet. Actually, this is I'm gonna go back to like the Rainbow Six conversation that we had earlier. It's also like interest that's in a school. So if the particular set of people have interest in, like, let's say Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter 6, for example, our coach Denny, the head coach of our program, is very open to making a team, even a club team, which can graduate into a varsity team in like a semester. So it's possible, very possible. I want more fighting team. I want more fighting games, though. It is.
That's my thing too. I want to see arcade sticks and stuff.
Yeah.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
So just curious. I mean, what are your plans after college, each of you?
I'm planning on staying with Post for my grad degree in mental health counseling. But after grad school, I plan on staying with Affinity Esports and being their in-house kind of psychologist, or just sticking with Affinity Esports just as a company.
Sure.
Because I love the esports scene.
Nice.
For me, I actually started off when I first enrolled at Post as an accounting major. Then it was business admin, and then but when I got more into the esports scene, I ended up becoming a gaming and esports major because of how much I actually really synergized with like the industry. Esports just surpassed music in terms of like revenue and like the money that's to be made in the market cap.
Music and film combined.
Music and film combined, absolutely crazy. So after college, I'm planning on sticking with Affinity Esports as well, or also looking into other professional organizations. I've also started doing looking into tier 3 orgs that I've actually been able to join as a player. It's a very fun time. It's very possible to do.
Yeah, so I just graduated 2 weeks ago with a esports management degree. So my plan, I'm working with Affinity and then kind of seeing what happens from there. But it's kind of just getting the resources and seeing and doing the connections and kind of seeing where that takes me. But for right now, the future is Affinity.
So I'm going to post for criminal justice. So after I graduate, I'm probably going to go to a police department somewhere in the state of Connecticut or down where I'm from in South Carolina. I'm going to stick with Affinity until I graduate. I'm going to be the big bad wolf in the room saying I'm not sticking with Affinity, but I've always wanted to be a police officer since I was a little kid. So, just going where my heart goes.
Sure. It's something, I mean, those answers were very interesting because there's such a crossover in esports and other things. I mean, you said you're going to be doing mental health
Yes.
in how that relates to esports. You said that you're looking at like the esports major, and you graduated with the esports major, right? So there's tons of academic and professional opportunities available. The industry's not just like playing competitively, it's the content creation around there. It's the everything else, the tech piece, the streaming piece, all that stuff.
There are so many gaming jobs that you won't even think actually exist. As someone who was going through that job process, like I love Vans, and Vans is opening a gaming department because it's also the AdSense and trying to figure out how they can integrate their stuff into a game. So there are so many different possibilities. I took an esports revenue class right before I graduated, and it really opened my eyes that there are so many different avenues for esports. So even if you don't want to fully go pro but want to be in the scene, there are so many different opportunities.
Sure.
Or you could also be like Mojo and just be like, yeah, I'll play some esports, and I'm going to go graduate and become a police officer. Which is a good, it's good, of course, because you can either just play as a career or you can just play for fun.
Yeah.
The options are available.
So, and that kind of, I think it pretty much answered the next question I had, which was, besides becoming better at the game you're playing, there's all these other skills that you've gained through being in the scene, these experiences, these knowledge. Is there anything else that you feel like has been from this esports world that you didn't touch on yet, that has been like a knowledge that you've gained or anything like that?
Also having just a general knowledge in hardware and software and computers. Before I became a lab attendant at Post University, I knew nothing about computers, like software, hardware. I didn't know how to clean up my disk space before I started at Post. And esports isn't just all about actual video games, it's also just computers. The amount of stuff that I've learned is astronomical.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff to be learned. Like as a captain, and I imagine maybe Mojo can also touch on this as well. It's like you learn a lot of things about being like a leader in terms of like in game and out of game, where it's communicating with other people, resolving issues, recognizing your own mistakes that you make or that the team makes and how to address them. That is probably difficult if you're not like in that sort of position. And even as a player, you can probably imagine the same thing that can happen. Taking accountability for your own actions and for other people.
I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from esports too is even like there's going to be highs and lows in gaming. You're going to lose matches, but it's kind of you kind of learn more about yourselves and your teammates and kind of who you are as a person through that. Like I've learned a bunch. I love public speaking and all that, and I've done a bunch of that because of esports. And like it's you find out so much about yourself and you find out so much about your friends when you're in towards the tail end of a match that's super close. Like you learn a lot about yourselves. And at least with Halo, we'd have these like 2 a.m. Discord calls where we would literally just hash out everything. And like then the next day we would be so much better, but we just didn't hold back what we wanted to say, but we kept it in a positive spin with it. But like we were very constructive with it, but like you learn a lot about yourself from it.
Sure.
So me personally, I was always like a lead by example kind of person. I was the captain of like the baseball teams that I played on. But you can't really do that on an esports team, right? Because it's all virtual. But obviously there's some parts of the game where you can lead by example, like no foul play, stuff like that. But you're gonna have to learn how to communicate properly. I think Kel can also talk to. I don't know about Kel because Kel's on a very friendly team. I'm not. My team's not the. We kind of bicker at each other a little bit, but there's going to be times as a captain, I hope all of you strive to be in a leadership role. Is you're gonna have moments where your players aren't like that you play with are not going to like you the most, right? It's just you're trying to do the best for the team and do the best for your comrades. So there's going to be moments where not everyone's going to be on the same path and think the same way, so that you're going to have to find a way to communicate and kind of compromise. And that kind of leads into the outside world too, right? Like for example, like I was saying before, I'm trying to take my skills that I'm learning here and it'll help me in the real world if I become an officer, right? It's trying to help mediate or and help compromise like situations in the real world. So everything you learn in esports can help you in some way in the real world, in my opinion.
Yeah. The final thing I'll say with that is also just like be able to take your opinion on something and make it constructive. That is also a really big thing I always harp on. Is like if someone does something you don't agree with, you got to find a way to bring it up where it won't cause an all-out war in the communication. Like Halo, we've done the all-out war, we've done the chill conversations, but it's like you gotta take it and you gotta do a positive, constructive twist on it, because at the end of the day, everyone has the same goal. No one is giving you criticism because they think you're bad. They're giving you the criticism because they want you to improve.
If I'll actually touch on this as well, like Mojo just said, I unfortunately, the Overwatch 2 team sometimes has its hiccups with players we bring in. If I'll say a very quick story, I have had very unfortunate conversations about benching or even kicking players at times from the team. And a majority of this is not because they are bad players. It's mostly because they had very bad mentals, or they just really, they're not able to be communicated with in a way that they can improve. So I had to have the conversation where I'm like, okay, so what do we do about them, basically? Do we consider benching them, or since they're making other people get frustrated or even uncomfortable at times, do we have to like consider even kicking them off the team? And we've had to do that because, you know, someone has to take initiative, and if I don't do that, then the team's just going to suffer from it. So, you know, it's you know, I'm sorry, it's a very sucky circumstance, but you know, I wouldn't have had that conversation if I, you know, wasn't the team captain. I feel like I learned some like ways to deal with people out of that experience.
I think one of the biggest things about team sports and well esports in general is that you kind of have to be on the same page about like both skill level and and also where you're expecting them to grow, what you're expecting them to do, follow-ups, even just like time of arrival. I've like, you know, played enough games to know it's like, you know, it's like trying to get a group together ranging from 4 to 8 people. It's like it just never works out. Everybody's scheduling. Have you guys learned things about that, especially as you're like, you know, going along? Have you guys had to do like the scheduling portion or any of the hard skills that we're talking about with like management? Because I know like a lot of the things you guys are talking about, like, you know, really like are complex issues that are hard to deal with. But like, what do you guys think about the even just the little tiny things you learn how to do that you probably take for advantage of?
So scheduling is definitely a very difficult thing to do with college students because we're all basically full-time. I think our team is full-time students. Some of us have jobs outside of school. We're adults. We have adult lives. Some of us have kids too. Some of our team members have kids. And learning how to schedule and just be adaptable to everybody else and being flexible in that sense is definitely very important when being on a team, and understanding that people do have lives outside of the team too. So if they don't respond to your looking for group message, don't take it to heart. They have lives as well. And just learning to be flexible and wanting to play is also a very important thing. So if you really don't want to play, but you are free, just say, I'm not comfortable playing right now. Like, I just want to chill out, not play any games.
It's also with like, you know, I have had to like, you know, speak with other colleges and such and be like, hey, is your team ready? Is your team ready? Please, we have a match in 10 minutes. Please, can you please respond? And then and then they finally respond. And then they say, oh, we have a player that's just coming from baseball practice. It'll be another 30 minutes. You automatically forfeit if you're 15 minutes in. You know this, right? We do. And I'm like, dude, read the rule book. But no, we have to communicate with like other colleges that, you know, some people are not as committed. You know, sometimes you get free FF wins, and those are fun. But you know, there's also communicating with, you know, my team and being like, hey guys, are you all able to make it for tonight? Why is one person not responding to a message? Can you please respond, letting me know that you'll be for tonight, please? You know, it's I've had to learn a few things about like trying to manage 5 players, getting them all in like not even one room, just on the computer to try to get them to. You seem like you have personal experience on this. To get them to play a game together, you know.
Yeah, I think with Halo, like, especially on our last semesters being seniors in college, like our schedules were so hectic. Like when we would practice, because my biggest thing was we would practice Monday through Thursday, and then I'd give weekends off because I was like, you guys have your own lives. We're seniors in college. Like, go decompress, and then we can work super hard. Because my biggest thing was quality over quantity. I'd rather work really hard for 2 hours compared to kind of slack for 6 hours. So we would do a lot of late night practices, and we would kind of just make sure that we got on the game at least a couple times, and then we did a lot of individual work. But then also a lot of the time I was like, even if like you can't get on, like watch a pro VOD for 30 minutes. Like as long as you're doing something that involves the game, like go over your own VOD with a teammate. So I made sure we were very flexible on that, because it was something where it's, if I'm telling my teammate, you have to be here right now at this moment, like over time, that's going to get really tiring for them. And if they don't want to play, like I've had teammates who got on, they're like, I really just don't want to scrim tonight. I've been like, all right, let's go over VOD. And like, it's just having a lot of things that you can do. And even if we're like, oh, let's go get dinner as a team, like it comes back to the team chemistry thing, is like with scheduling, that's also where you get a lot of the chemistry, because if you're making people play when they don't want to play, it will cause issues.
So going back to what Kel said, like there's as like a captain, you get a lot of scheduling issues, especially towards like the end of seasons. Mostly every single team at Post plays in 2 conferences, ECAC and the NECC. And as the captain, like you have to worry about your own players, and then it's like you're fighting against 19 other people every week, trying to get in scheduling. But my team personally, we have this little subculture within the program where like a Valorant has to be somewhat of a bigger commitment than the other teams. And this like kind of stems from when we won our championship. Every single player on my team was a college athlete, so we all kind of understood that like we had to be committed towards each other just as much as we are committed to our regular traditional sports. So in my personal experience, I had a little bit of a different kind of viewpoint of this kind of subject, because like it just had different kind of personalities on my team. But I'm also very fortunate to have a coach who's very helpful when it comes to helping me with scheduling and helping me with the other players. So I don't always have to be the bad cop. But it just goes back to that kind of camaraderie factor where everyone's trying to fight for the same thing. So if you're just trying to find commitment, if you find the commitment, you're gonna succeed.
Sure. I mean, that was pretty much all I had for the questions. I don't know if anyone else had any other questions here, or Viv, if there are any questions you want to add. Yeah.
Do you think VR games would be like in the future? Esports for VR?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm not sure. I feel like esports titles stem from demand. Like usually, like I'm taking Overwatch or Valorant for example. Valorant came from Riot Games, which already had a big audience with League of Legends. Very easy to make into an esport. Overwatch, already had stemmed from like a very big like scene. VR games, I feel like there has to be a similar title like that, where it already has to have a big audience to establish a sort of like esports scene. I'm not too familiar with the esports or like for VR games yet, but I feel like that definitely could be a possibility. How would that look like? I'm not sure, but definitely in the near future.
I know VR and like AR and all that stuff is getting more popular year in year, so I do think down the line there will be that, but I do like right now I don't really know, but I can almost guarantee that in like the next couple of years it's going to start, because companies are trying to find the next big thing. So
yeah, I think a lot of work in creative industries are already like very much so invested in VR, so it's a matter of time before it enters more of the gaming, more of the esports side. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do you know where to get a hitbox controller?
A hitbox controller? Oh, yes. I don't know. They're all sold out.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I want one so badly. I've actually looked into the Razer Kitsune, but I play on the Xbox Series X, so that's not compatible.
All I see is just the joystick, but
I don't like joystick.
Yeah, I'm more on
Me
the
too.
buttons itself. Oh,
me too. It looks so much better. But like, if you play on a PS5, get the Razer Kitsune. But if you don't, it's a hard market. Actually, I have a funny story on this. I actually competed in a Street Fighter 6 tournament for a convention once, and there was this one guy. He actually worked at I think it was either Logitech or no, it was Corsair. And he basically works on keyboards and such like that. You know what I'm talking about. And basically, he got like a keyboard, took out all the keycaps, modded it that it can be compatible with the PS5, and it's basically like the 4 switches, like as you would see on the hitbox, but on a keyboard instead. It was the coolest thing ever, and I got swept by him. But like, I love the engineering and commitment made by this man. So honestly, if you could like do something like that.
Yeah. That reminds me of, do you know what Guilty Gear is?